You are now listening to Shh, Your Ancestors Are Speaking.
Hello, and thank you for listening to my podcast. Today, I have a special guest.
Hi.
My daughter, Erin Smoot. She has been a part of my life her whole life, 21 years.
Sadly.
So we're going to talk about mother-daughter relationships. And the movie that kind of comes to mind when talking about it is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I really like the film. I kind of want to give like a little bit of a background on the film. It was something that we went to go see in Atlanta, right? When we were doing our girls' trip.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You saw it, though.
Yeah. Remember when we went to go to an event in Atlanta at our friend's house?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went to go see this movie, having no idea that it was about mother-daughter relationships. Yeah. We just went to go see the movie because I thought it was cool.
But then a month after, we had an argument that I left the house. So.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah. So it kind of was like a prerequisite to what was really going to happen in our life. So a little bit of background on the movie. It is a film where it starts out where this woman lives this kind of taxing life.
Well, it's an Asian American film.
Yes.
So that also goes back to the relationship between the Asian daughters and their relationship back and forth. So that's also a big part of the film, is that their Asian heritage and how that all builds up into the characters and things like that, like how they work and things like that. So
Absolutely. And in the film, she goes through many trials and tribulations in the very beginning, kind of living a monotonous life, right? Like she is doing her taxes. And it's kind of funny because there's a quote that it says, you don't have to do anything in life but pay taxes and die. So I feel like the movie is very reflective of some of the mundane things we don't want to do in life and how that we avoid it. And sometimes even avoiding each other is a part of that type of thing. But, the husband wants a divorce and the mother, and she doesn't know that he wants a divorce. And the mother is just really busy and just really consumed with life. And in the film, it kind of looks like the daughter is very ignored and not listened to and feels like very disconnected from her mother. So in it, she has to go see the IRS and she could lose her business in this. And it just feels like one catastrophic thing is happening at a time, and it feels like all the walls are caving in her. And we suggest that people watch the film. We're not going to go through
the whole entire film. Yeah. You got to watch it for yourself to completely understand what's happening or how good the movie is in itself, and also support the Asian actors in it, because
absolutely
it was a big movie when it came out.
So. Absolutely. So, Erin, tell me a little bit about how you felt about the mother-daughter dynamic in the film.
Well, at the beginning, it's pretty much like, okay, like the daughter feels like she just wants to get away from it because her mom's constantly working in this laundromat. Like, they never have enough money. They're always dealing with something. She has to be in the laundromat. Her mom is expecting of her, like, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to do, too. So it's like, I can see how she can feel overwhelmed because I think, wasn't she also doing something with colleges at the same time, too? Yeah, she wanted to go away for school.
Yes, and she was gay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the mother also had to deal with the fact that she may never even have grandchildren, and that's her only daughter.
Yes.
So it's the relationship between that. It's like, oh, this is my only daughter. This is what you're supposed to do. And she didn't feel like she fit into her mother's image.
Yeah. So how did you feel about that? Did you feel like you connected and resonated with the daughter character?
At some points, but I've never felt like you never wanted me not to go away or to stay here and work or anything like that. So I don't know what that aspect is like, because you never said, Aaron, you can't go away for school or anything like that, because you gave me the opportunity to. I just chose to stay at a closer school just to be close to home. But I mean, yeah, I resonated with some things, like, you know, that feeling where you're not fitting into your mom's ideal of what she expects of you. Of course, moms know that you can be better, but, you know, sometimes you don't feel like sometimes you feel like you are doing your best.
Yeah. You know, I think I resonated with the mother character and even the daughter character, because I think that my relationship with my father has changed throughout the years, and wanting to fit in a bubble. I think the difference is I actually wanted to fit into a bubble for an extended period of time. But from the mother aspect, I can totally relate to everything kind of coming in on me and getting very distracted from, you know, what I should be doing with my child and the time I should be spending with my children, as opposed to just trying to survive, because it is very difficult trying to run two businesses and trying to be a parent and be a partner and a friend and all of these things. So I think that a lot of times we can get bogged down with kind of the cycles that we put ourselves in. And that was one thing that I liked about the film, is that once she got to the point where she realized that there were different universes and realms, that to be able to access the gifts that the other realms had to offer, like the special abilities, they had to do something different. They had to do something weird. So in the film, she had to like pee herself or chew gum that had already been chewed. Like, they had to do something to break the cycle. And in this book that I'm reading called The Gene Keys, it talks about when you're stuck in a cycle, a lot of times all you have to do is give the cycle direction. So I always compare it to like when you're in a car, and if the car is turned one way, then all you have to do is turn the wheel a different way, do something different to be able to get something different. So that's one thing I liked, and I think that I kind of connect to in my life. Whenever I feel like things are out of control, I kind of do what I can do and release everything else and kind of lay everything else at, you know, God's feet or my higher self feet, and be like, hey, this is on you. I can't do anything about that, you know. There was a quote that was in the movie. It says, every rejection, every disappointment has brought you to this point. And I think that there's been so many times in our relationship, you mentioned the fight that we had right after that, that I had felt very upset, because the original plan was for you to go to the military. And I was very upset because you had decided not to go to the military. And that was one of our biggest fights.
That was the biggest fight.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's kind of back away from the movie and talk about how you kind of felt about that.
I mean, during the time, it felt like, because, you know, I was doing more and more research into the Army and what I would have to do to be a doctor. And I was like, I don't even want to be, how am I supposed to be an anesthesiologist for the Army? And they don't even got like a place for it. Or if this is what I want to do, if this is the type of doctor I want to be, and I have to go work for the Army afterward, that's not something I want to do, because I only want to go to the Army just to pay for school, and I don't think I should. That my thinking was, I didn't think I should have to go to the Army just to pay for school. Like, there was other ways to do it.
Right. And I think just as a parent, I felt like I had a certain plan for you, and I think that I got lost in that plan. And I think I should have taken more time out to kind of listen to possibly what your plan was. But also, you could have communicated that with me as well. That was one of the big things.
Yeah, I think a part of that was like, I felt bad because you had did so much and was doing so much. So I didn't want to just like, you know, say, hey, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. And you go, oh, my God, what do you mean you don't want to do this anymore? And that's what ended up happening.
Yeah. And it was a huge knockdown, blow up. And I remember that there was a point when we were arguing and we were kind of going back and forth. And you and I had a little... yeah, like there were no bows thrown, but it was definitely a scuffle. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I had a choice. And I could do what my feeling said, which was we were going to have a showdown of all showdowns. Or I could lower my ego, let it go, and walk away and de-escalate. And it kind of brings me back to the movie, right? Where she's talking to the tax person and the other realm was calling her to kind of save the world. And she had a choice. She could either do what she had to do, or she can go back to who she was. And I think that all of us, you and I both, have had decisions in our life where we had to make a decision and we had to make a choice. And a lot of times we had to do something different to be able to have it. So once we de-escalated, we separated from each other. You went to
my grandmother's house.
Yes.
And I stayed there for like a week. And then I called you. And I was like, okay, like I want to come home.
How did you feel that week? I don't think I've ever talked to you about this.
It was almost like a fever dream because I was doing the same thing. I was just going to work, you know. I was getting ready for my vacation because I was about to leave. So I was just going to work every day and just, you know, coming home. I mean, to my GGs. And then I was like, okay, like, you know, maybe I, you know, did the wrong thing. But I think we both realized we both did wrong things in that whole entire argument. So it was like, you know, it gave us both time to reflect, like, okay, like, maybe we need to reevaluate the situation.
Yeah. For me, I remember when I left you with your dad, and I remember driving away and feeling as if my life was over. And I had a lot of fear because, you know, you had a friend who fell out with her mother around the same time. And she never talked to her mother again. So I just was really, really fearful of that. And I realized all in one kind of whop, I had made my whole life about you. And, you know, I think as parents, we make our whole life about our children. And eventually they grow up. Eventually they go off to do their own thing. And then you feel like you have nothing left. So I tell people all the time, you can't live for your kids. You have to live for yourself and show them the example through your own actions. Because I remember this moment where I was just like, what is life without her?
Yeah, and I think a part of that was like you didn't register in your head that, okay, she's an adult now. Like, because I was out of high school.
Yes.
I was working.
Yes.
It wasn't like I was just sitting at home doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, I was out of high school, and as soon as I got out of high school, I had gotten a job. Like, there was no time where I was just sitting on the couch, you know, not doing nothing. I'm like, why is she so... And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, like, she acts like I'm not an adult. Like, she acts like I'm sitting here and not doing nothing. And it wasn't like I wasn't sitting there and not doing nothing, because I've never been the type to just sit there and not do anything.
Right. You know, I think that happens with every adult. I've had several conversations with other parents, and, you know, they live in my house. They're my kid. They're gonna, and I get it. Yes, that is how you feel. But I think that what improved our relationship was me recognizing that you were adult and then allowing you the opportunity to prove yourself as an adult. And as soon as I started to do that, like, I never forget, you know, God rest your Gigi, but she called me and she was like, how you doing? And I just sobbed on the phone. And I was like, I miss her so much. And she was like, I know, but every now and again we need a break. And whenever you need a break, that's what I'm here for. I'm just so blessed that I had her as a support system, because I just was so afraid that I had lost you. I think I feared that more than what you were doing or who you were doing it with. I didn't like a girlfriend at the time. And I tell you, oh y'all, listen.
She did not like her girlfriend. I did not like that.
Didn't.
Her girlfriend at the time, man.
I was just like, she is ruining your life. I was just so worried.
You really thought like I was just so influenced by her, and I was like, I am not influenced by her. And I was getting so mad, like, because I was like, she has nothing to do with this. Like, I have been mad. Like, what do you mean? And you're like,
but you have to admit,
I mean, she of course she clouded my judgment a bit.
Yes,
like, but
she was a succubus. Okay,
but at the same time, it was like she's not affected. Like, if she has nothing to do with me wanting to go to school or not, I felt like you thought I was staying just because I wanted to, like I wanted to stay with her, and I was like, I don't want to stay with her. Like, that was never the problem.
But that was her plan.
yeah, she thought that was that was the plan. I was like, man.
So yes, that's why I thought that. And so even bringing it back to the movie, right? In the movie, her name was Japal Chubaki or something like that. The mom always messed up the name too, so I was like, I'm gonna do that throughout this whole thing. I'm gonna butcher the name, but she was the instrument of chaos, right? And I think a lot of us as parents feel a lot of times our children are the chaos, but I think in your life, in my life with you, you have been some of the change that was necessary in my life. You know, I've always told you that you saved me. Mm-hmm. I mean, without you, I don't think that my life would have had the direction that it needed. And I think that you have taught me so much the same way I have taught you. And I think that kind of stepping outside of our own shoes, both of us, and kind of seeing things from each other's perspective has really improved our relationship.
And then also, we're two completely different people. Like, when people think like you're not, like, people never think you're my mom because we're so different. Like, you would never think, honestly, if you met us in person, you would never think that this is my mom because we're like peas in two separate pots. Like, we're not in the same pot. So it's just like, so to that aspect, it's also about, we also had to learn that we were two completely different people.
Yes. I think that that's a thing,
especially how we approach things. Like, I'm more of a, like, you know, it'll work out if it works out. You're like, no, like, you gotta make it work out. I'm like, nah, it'll work out, man.
Yes. Well, I think that that's a thing with Scorpios and Tauruses, because, you know, that was me and your grandmother's dynamic. My mother was a Scorpio and I'm a Taurus. So something I learned through astrology class is that Scorpio and Taurus are on two, they mirror each other, but they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. So you're right, they are two peas of different pods. So that makes complete sense. And we kind of balance each other out well, though. I think we work well together. But a lot of it was, you know, especially if you're having issues seeing eye to eye, de-escalating as a parent. Try to look at yourself in the mirror and see if you're looking at things from the ego perspective. In the movie, you know, she blamed everything on this evil entity. She said, oh, you are controlling my daughter. This isn't you. Not fully understanding the changes and transformations that her daughter had gone through. She really didn't accept it, you know. So, and then it got to a point where she decided to be just as delusional as her daughter. And she said, you know what, I'm going to go crazy too, because maybe then I can understand her. But I think it was that difference that made her kind of actually understand her daughter and life.
It was her finally being like, you know what, let me see it from her point of view and be just like her to understand. Yes. Because she didn't understand what was happening. I mean, I get and that's how it is when you're a parent. Sometimes you just don't understand what's happening. Yeah. And you have to look through the lens of your kid because, you know, each generation is different. It's always a learning curve. So
it is.
You know, more things get introduced. There's different, like, I mean, you know, my generation compared to yours, this is completely different, and it's just a couple years apart. So it's just like,
Imagine when people have more of a gap.
Yeah.
And then you have to think also generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a little bit more of the poverty mindset than you do. Not saying that my parents were in poverty, but I think that feeling of having to work very hard for what you want.
What you can even do. Like,
yes.
to even, I feel like for us, it's like, we're like, man, money, we gonna get that
we'll
money.
Figure it out.
We gonna get that. Money gonna come back, but the trip is, you can only make memories for a lifetime. So it's like, I guess y'all were thinking like, we have to have all this money saved, and we have to have this, and we have to have that, and we're like, as long as we got money to pay these bills and go on trips, we're good. So it's just, different mindsets, even how we work, because we're like, we're not about to work nowhere where we're not appreciated or something like that. And some people, and back then, you work where you're uncomfortable because you do what you got to do for some money.
Right.
So, that whole entire thing of, and that's just one generation of art.
Yeah.
Just that whole entire thinking of like, why don't you have a job? Because I don't want to work there. And they're like, why when you work there? It's money.
And I mean, think about even the ideology of the bagel, how she put everything on a bagel, and how that would have been something that she was taught generationally to bottle everything up, to take everything, put it, suppress it, not deal with it. I think that was a part of why we really blew up on each other, is because you and I weren't really having conversations. You didn't feel comfortable to have certain conversations with me. And I don't think I would have been open to the conversation at the time. So I don't think it's something that... I
don't even think you were really into like the spiritual... I mean, you were, but like...
I was just beginning.
You were just beginning. You were like teetering the line. So it was just like, we were having conversations, but they weren't like big ones that we have now. Like, if I got pregnant, I wouldn't have told you back then. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like now, I'll be like, Mom, this is bad.
And I would die soon after.
I'd be like, Mom, it's bad. This is a bad situation. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I call you first. You're the first person I'm calling. So it's like, it's just different aspects. Because Mom, I don't even think I wouldn't have told you. Like, I mean, at one point I would be like, I'm first to tell you, but I don't think I would have told you off rip. Like,
and I think also you didn't want to disappoint me.
Yeah. I think my whole entire thing was like, especially when I was that little, like, oh my God, like, what if I disappoint my mom? Like, oh my God, like, my mom's gonna be so disappointed in me. And it was like that with you, my mom, dad, anybody, like, because, I never want to disappoint anybody because, I'm the first kid to go to college. Like, I'm the first kid to, I'm the first grandchild. Like, I have a lot of people looking up to me between my siblings. Like, I have 7 siblings. So it's like, I got people looking up to me.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, that pressure was pressuring.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of pressure just anyway because I had you young. I had you extremely young. I think you saw a lot of things that you shouldn't have saw. I think that you went through things that you should not have gone through due to the fact that I was not fully grown myself. I mean, we've had that kind of conversation
I think
before.
that was a part of the movie too, because she's in there with her mom doing taxes, her mom saying we ain't got no money.
Yeah.
We
adult situations. Yeah. But want to treat you like a child. Yeah.
And that was also part of that issue because you can't put your child in adult situations and then treat them like a kid,
like they don't understand,
and to which they do because they seen you struggle, so you can't pretend and act like this is just kids' issue when you've been telling them like
that's right,
we don't have this, we can't do that, or this and this and this. So
absolutely, I think that and how it connects to spiritual. Well, let's go back to. I think that is another important thing. If I had to offer any tips to parents, is to have more transparent conversations with your children. I think that by admitting that you don't have all the answers,
hit them with we listen and we don't judge.
That's right. That's right.
It's a part. Because as a parent, as a child, if I feel like my mom's gonna judge me or bash me, of course I'm not gonna go to you and be like, Mom, this is what's happening. Like, it's the same thing. It's like with teenage pregnancies. Imagine that how it was with your parents. Like, of course you didn't want to go to your parents and be like, I'm pregnant.
Yeah. I hid you until I was 7 months.
Yeah, and that's too. You didn't have time to prepare for me.
No. No prenatals, no anything. So I always felt were my miracle because, I mean, with no hope, I mean, I hid it. You were, I scuba dived with you. I did so many unsafe things. And you came along, and I will never forget when you were born. I looked at you and I said, it is me and you against the world.
Yeah.
You know, I knew. So I just think that being more transparent, being more open, especially if your kid has been involved in a lot of adult situations, I think that it's hard for us as an adults to admit that. And then once we know that, we want to, it's like we parentify our children and then we want to treat them like a child. And I think that what that does is it teaches them to lie and to hide things because they're just emulating our behaviors, hiding and lying, because that's what we're doing. We're suppressing things. Now, do I think that you should know things that I go through? Not necessarily, but if we can,
to at least have a sense. I feel like
Yeah.
I should have at least have a sense because, you know, imagine you're going through something and then I'm coming to you on my BS and being like, hey, mom, da, 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 da. You're like, Aaron, I don't have time for this right now. And you get angry. And then that's when the lashing out becomes because your
Yeah.
kid doesn't know what's happening. And so, of course, this confusion. Confusion is like an enemy to
Yeah.
any kid, to anything. It's like coming to a kid and the kid being like, why? Because I said so. And that's
Right.
like, that's never I never like that answer. Like, it's never an answer. It's never an answer that you should give your kid because now they're sitting in confusion.
Right. And it doesn't allow your child to properly process things, right?
And that was also a part of the movie too,
Yes.
was the mom being like, no, because I said so. And she's like, why? And that was a part of the movie too, because you know, you get into a parent like, you're saying something because you know your reasons, but we don't know your reasons.
Right. But then think about how you take that away. If you are able to see my processing, maybe you can then take that, adapt that, remix it in your life and do it better. Because it's important that you have a process. And I think that a lot of times we try to come off as perfect, you know, and that kind of relates to the sermon we had today. Yeah. What does a Christian look like? What does a spiritualist look like? And
the perfect child, or the perfect mother, or anything like that. Everyone gets, you know, putting yourself in these boxes, and you really can't put yourself in one box because we're not one-dimensional creatures.
No, we're not. I think, and then let's talk about the spiritual themes. So one of the things I like is we both believe in different timelines and how all the timelines are happening concurrently.
I mean, where did dreams come from? Like, there's just so many things, like, you know, deja vu, like, you know, there's so many different phenomenon, and, you know, in this whole entire big, gigantic universe, we cannot be the only ones here. Like, this can't be the only thing. Like, there's black holes, there's different things, like there's so many things that has been left undiscovered. So of course, and we just don't have the technology to access those things. Eventually we will, you know, we get the I told you so.
Exactly.
We'll get our I told you so but you know, it's just, definitely that's the belief, because there has to be different timelines.
Yeah.
Like, there's been I bet you there's a timeline where an asteroid came and destroyed the Earth. The same thing as like dinosaurs coming and things like that. Like there has to be different places, like, and in terms of like thinking about God, like he's had to have made other worlds, just like how he had to make his own angel. Of course, he you know, there was trial and error, and that's trial and error in anything.
I think so, and I like the fact that because there's a theory of the egg that we are nothing but reincarnations of one another, and that we are extensions of God here for a human experience. So why would we not be able to tap in, right? But isn't that what we do in our life, right? My mentor always says this. Since my spiritual awakening, I have moved very quickly through things. And I used to be like, oh my God, I'm learning so much. And she'd be like, no, you're remembering. So that's how I kind of looked at this movie, that as she was doing something different, shaking things up and accessing different worlds, what if that's exactly when we do when we're going through our upliftment or our awakening? We are accessing different parts of ourselves. I mean, what
There's
is
also always different paths you can go down.
Yes,
like
choices.
Imagine
Yes.
I went to the military and,
Yeah.
and things like that. Because honestly, I don't know. Honestly, don't know where I would be. Don't know if I would be in school or if I would have chose to be in the military full time or anything like that. You never know. There's different choices and different things. And I feel like there's different timelines to say if you did make that choice.
Absolutely.
Or if you made this choice. There's always little choices. It's the butterfly effect. Like, if you go back in time and mess something up, it can completely desecrate the future. So it's...
Absolutely. And I think that as you access different parts of yourself, this is how you discover who you are. That it was you not going to the military. Did you discover that you were so good in college? Now you're a 4.0 student. I think that had I made certain different decisions in my life, I probably would not be the mother I am to you. So it's also us not regretting that these decisions, that these decisions are a part of who we are. And that brings me back to that quote that I said earlier. And that was also a part of our sermon. A lot of times we want to be these cookie cutter, already made versions where we're not really living authentically ourselves.
We're thinking that perfect picture vision is looking and just, putting yourself, I'm supposed to be in the gym every day, and I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to have the perfect body. I'm supposed to have the perfect husband. I'm supposed to have the perfect kids. We're supposed to spend all these times. We're supposed to go on all these vacations. We're just of what you see and what people imagine is the perfect life. But, the perfect life is different for everybody. Because, even the husband said in the movie, in any universe, I would have been happy to just be folding laundry with you. He even said it.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And I think that even at the end, when she combated and fought with love, you know what I mean? And when she started to use love, she started to get a lot further.
Yeah.
She was used to fighting all the time. And I think that that's a part of being authentic.
Embracing her child.
Yes.
And finally accepting. It's all about accepting.
It is.
It's accepting your life.
Yourself.
Accepting yourself. It's accepting all of the things around you. Because, you can't control everything all the time.
Your parent, you accepting me. I'm accepting you. I think that that's also where we accept what we're good at, what we're not good at. That doesn't mean we sit in these places and we don't grow to be bigger. Yeah. But we also have to
accept.
Yes.
Because, not everybody's meant to be a doctor. Not everybody's meant to, be in the NFL. Not everybody's meant to go to the NBA. Not everybody. Everybody's meant to do exactly what God put them on this earth to do.
That's right. Purpose.
There's always a purpose. And if your purpose is to bring awareness or things like that, there's lots of even children who lose their lives early just for God to, not necessarily prove a point, but to teach a lesson. Yeah.
And then even think about at the end when the black hole was sucking her in. I think that's attributed to our old ways. A lot of times our old ways try to hold on to us, and they try to suck us back into old cycles and who we used to be. But one of my favorite things, and of course I'm a crybaby, I am the golden retriever. She is a black cat. And at the end, of course, I was sobbing like a little baby because she was like, I will never let you go. And I think that that's so much a part of how I feel when it comes to you.
Yeah. I know no matter what, you're not going to just cast me out and let me drown, because some parents are like, you know what, they need to go out there and drown. They need to do this and need to do that. And I constantly hear people like that in school, like, I have friends who don't even have a place at home. Like, I couldn't imagine coming home and not being able to sleep in a bed. Like, it's just things like that that's just insane to me. Like, and I know, and that just shows the type of parent that you are, because I will always be able to come home and have a place to sleep. Like
Always.
that's just something.
It's a given.
It's a given, and I feel like it always should be a given.
But I think I also worked very hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
And learn. I think that we kind of go through this all the time, where I adjust when you leave, and then you come back home and there's this adjustment.
Yep. She's mad every time I come back home. She's mad, like, oh my God, the little troll who comes around and messes things up just happens to leave when you go.
To give some context, every single time my daughter comes home, things go missing. They are in her room. So I believe there is a troll that comes in my house. And it destroys things, it moves things around, and then no one in the house knows. No one in the house knows what's going on. But yeah, I think that was some of my favorite parts in it. And I think that me finding my spirituality has helped our relationship.
Yeah, also, even about the mom, like her just accepting everything in her life, it just improved.
It did. She accepted the IRS lady. She accepted her husband. Yeah.
She accepted her daughter.
Her daughter's girlfriend. Her father and her father's beliefs, and how her father's beliefs were kind of projected onto the situation.
So her accepting everything, that was given to her, and accepting the life that she was given made her life incredibly better.
It did. So, I guess if I had to offer some last minute tips to parents with their daughters, it would be to continue to have open communication. Find out what your children are interested in, and start to try to do those things yourself. One thing that if you want to connect to the youth, you have to be authentic. I think that's part of the reason why TikTok took off the way that it did, is because it's very authentic. Yes.
Like they said, people were like, oh man, I don't ever want to go on Instagram, because it's like you got to be perfect on there. You got to be going on trips. Your makeup got to be tea. Your body got to be tea. You go on TikTok, you see so many different body types, so many different things. It's authentic, and being authentically yourself is literally just the key.
Absolutely.
It's the key to everything.
Absolutely. And I think, again, when I say these things, that means on both ends. That means that your child being authentic. I think that celebrating each other's individuality, like what makes you special, I should know. I think that if you don't know what your child is good at or what they like, then you need to have some more conversations with your child, because they'll talk to you about it, but they stop talking to you when you aren't listening. Because
thinking about before, did you know what I liked beforehand? I mean, you had an idea. I mean, of course you have an idea what your kid likes.
I've always been a good gift giver.
Yeah, yeah. But like, you didn't know exactly like who I was, yes. Like my thinking process, like how I communicate with my friends on a day to day. You didn't know how my day to day went, or what I was going through it with myself. So I think that was the issue as well. Even when I had depression in high school during COVID, and we were stuck in a house, and you were like, "What's wrong with you?"
Right.
You were like, even then you had to shift your mindset. We also became closer after that.
Yes.
You had to understand, like, okay, she is stuck in this house. She don't get to go to work. She just is stuck on a computer all day long, staring at a screen. So
I had to have more understanding and empathy. I think empathy is a huge thing. I think it's a balance. Yeah. I think it's not having sympathy, because that we kind of feed in. Yeah, nobody
wants sympathy, but everyone wants empathy.
That's right.
Everyone wants you to know what it's like to be in their shoes, because it's different being in, and everybody's pair of shoes is different.
And I think what also has happened is how we do touch bases. How we touch base with each other at least every other day, especially now that you're away. Yeah. We talk a lot more. So I think doing all these things can help build better relationships. I think we show each other's appreciation to each other a lot more than how we used to. And, understanding that knowing yourself is going to help you know other people and your children, and you knowing yourself is going to help you connect to
just,
me more.
just being authentic and just, telling the truth. I feel like, the biggest thing is telling the truth. And, in any situation, just tell your parent. I feel like you should just tell your parents the truth, because it can be very hard.
Yeah.
But sometimes it isn't the right thing to tell your parent the truth, because sometimes you're like, because there's some things where I was like, you know what, can't tell my mama that, gotta take that one down.
Oh God, I don't want to hear it.
Can't tell my mom that one, but there's some things that just be. You being an authentic person has also made me authentic. Like I've been the same person since, I haven't been the same person, but, I've always been able to be myself from the time I was a kid to growing up. Like, you've never been like, Aaron, you shouldn't do that, or Aaron, don't do that, or, you never in my life have you been like knocking down my dreams or any of my hopes or aspirations or anything like that. So I think it's very,
100%.
It's important for you to be authentic, to also show your kids to be authentic. So I think a thing for a parent is always be authentic. Never show your kid this fake life.
Yeah.
Be honest.
And
let them know. There's you can keep some distance, but never keep your kid in the dark, because confusion is a kid's worst enemy.
Yeah. Agreed. So we encourage you guys to watch this movie. I really liked it. Of course, you guys know from the last episode, I love karate and anything where people are fighting type of movies. So I think it had a good mix of real life situations, martial arts, and just kick butt stuff.
It was a really cool movie in general, like the colors, even like even how they did like the colors of the movie. It was such an artistic movie. It was a movie. I feel like it was a movie for everyone.
Yes,
like it was really good. Yeah, and it speaks to the soul.
It did. So we encourage you guys to reflect on your relationship, either with your daughter or with your mother, and think about some of the things that we said and some ways that you could possibly improve that relationship. I also, please, I've asked you guys before, if you have any stories, you can always email me these stories. I want to hear below on some ways that you've improved your relationship with your children or with your parents. And so that way we can learn from one another. This is a learning thing as well. I want to invite you guys to really open up and be vulnerable in sharing the stories. And you can connect with me either below in the comment section, or you're able to connect to me through www.smoothiefox.com, or on all my socials. I look forward to revealing many more aspects of not just myself, but of relationships and connections, so that way we may learn from one another. Do you have any last minute things to add, Aaron?
Nope. She's a good mom. That's I got that, I got a good mom, man. I always say that. Like, I don't ever have to deal with the normal problems because I got a good mom, man. So
I appreciate that, Anne.
Very important.
I appreciate it. And I'm so grateful for you for doing this, and you being very transparent and open and honest in this podcast and joining in with me. This is something that I'm going to remember and replay for forever. So please, subscribe to my channel. Please let me know what you want to hear more of. I still would like to see more stories, so that way I can just do a whole episode on your stories. I will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shh, Your Ancestors Are Speaking. Subscribe to the channel and click the follow button. For updates on current events, follow Smoothie Fox on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok.
A little different than all the rest. quite old-fashioned, wear a hat, sometimes play chess.